Folks, please like the videos. It helps us with the algorithms here on YouTube. Comment, share the videos on social media, and subscribe right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Cade McNamara, 12 of 25, 91 yards. So people that didn't watch the game, they're going to look at that and say, and I saw it all over social media, oh, this is the guy, huh? He's the guy just after the big game against Rutgers, and now look at him. So on to the next one. But I think you can give us a little bit more insight into Cade McNamara's performance.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that in the first quarter and a half, he actually played pretty well. I don't think he played as well as he did against Rutgers, where he was just pretty much lights out when he came in for Joe Milton. But before he went down with a shoulder injury, he was playing well, and the offense was moving the ball. They scored. Hassan Haskins was, a big part of that as well, but he was throwing, on the money. He was throwing on time, which has been a problem for Joe Milton in the past. I thought that if Cade McNamara was healthy, this is probably a really different game for Michigan. But then, midway through the second quarter, he gets tackled he's trying to dive for the end zone, essentially, gets tackled, lands on his shoulder. He's struggling. He tries to go back out actually for a little bit, and then it just isn't working, so he had to get pulled. He went into the locker room early and then actually did come out after halftime, even though that shoulder was not 100%. So Joe Milton did come in. I thought that Joe Milton, and we were just talking about this, I thought Joe Milton looked as bad as ever. And I hate to harp on a kid like that, as I think he's a good kid and he does still have potential, but he came in, went 1 for 3. His first pass went to Ronnie Bell on a short route, and then Ronnie Bell turned it up for 21 yards. But then the next 2 throws of his, one he sailed over his head on an 8-yard out route, and then basically the same route. The next pass was thrown about 8 yards into the dirt in front of the receiver. So as far as the quarterback situation in Ann Arbor, I think it still is Cade McNamara's if he's healthy. Jim Harbaugh came out in his press conference today and did not say much about, per usual, he's not a real open about his injuries, but he just said he's still working things through and they don't have an update on McNamara. Now with obviously the COVID situation, we'll see if they even play on Saturday, but if they were to play, I'm not sure if he'd be available. So Joe Milton against a decent Maryland team. I don't know how you put or where you put Maryland, but I think Michigan would really struggle.
Yeah, Maryland's never decent. They're either really good or they're horrible. I think they
Exactly.
have two places to be. So we'll see what we get out of them this weekend. We'll talk about them in a second. But so the quarterback position is different than the other positions because everybody's looking at it, and the coaches, for as much as they like to bring back for the public and for the media and the fans the quarterback position into the rest of the groupings and say, hey, we evaluate in left guard, outside linebacker. We did the same evaluation. It is somewhat different. And when you get a struggling team because that guy's supposed to be the leader, then there's sometimes quarterback situations that where there's a decision made with the thought that, hey, we've kind of gone with this guy. Let's stay with this guy, even though we think the other guy still is a competitor for the job next year, and we'll reevaluate and go back to it. But we've got a sample size now of 141 passes for Joe Milton, about half that many, 71 for Cade McNamara. It sounds like you've made a determination that Cade McNamara is just a better player than Joe Milton.
From the eye test, he is. And it's not even just the athletic ability, which I think that, Joe Milton, obviously, if you look at on paper, you're thinking, how is this guy not the guy, right? 6'5", 245 pounds, has a cannon for an arm, but he just couldn't put it together. He can't get the touch throws, which was what we were told he worked on all offseason. I don't think he goes through his reads very well. And so Cade McNamara comes in and he looks a million times more prepared than Joe Milton ever did. He has his reads. He's locked into guys. He gets the ball out in time, especially with an inexperienced offensive line. They really were working, well as a unit with McNamara at the helm. And so it was pretty obvious in the Rutgers game and even obvious in the beginning of this game against Penn State that there's just a different tempo, different feeling, different vibe to this offense under McNamara. So I think the leadership qualities are a lot different. He's much more vocal than Joe Milton, which I know that Jim Harbaugh loves that, obviously, as a former quarterback himself, and he was very vocal as well. So he loved that. There were some things that came out about McNamara as well, that even when he wasn't starting, he was preparing all week. He had his play sheet with him at all times, and he had a whole routine of Sunday, Monday, he's going through a couple things. Tuesday, Wednesday, he's going through, he's first and second down things on Sunday, Monday, third and fourth down things on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then putting it all together Thursday, Friday. So I think he's much more of a student of the game, where Joe Milton has probably relied on his athletic ability too much and didn't feel like he needed to be that prepared. But yeah, in all senses, I thought McNamara was obviously the better quarterback, which to me, tell me how Cade McNamara, who in just August, September even, before Dylan McCaffrey transferred, he was the third string quarterback at Michigan. You had Joe Milton and Dylan McCaffrey battling it out. Well, now obviously Dylan wasn't the guy because Jim Harbaugh chose and Josh Gaddis chose Joe Milton over him. Joe Milton turned out not to be the guy. So now Cade McNamara is the guy. How is Cade McNamara? How is he not even looked at in spring practice, in summer, in fall? I'm very curious as to what happened over the offseason.
And didn't most Michigan beat writers, media, people that followed the team think that Dylan McCaffrey was going to be the guy?
100%. I think that there were very few people that thought Joe Milton was the guy. McCaffrey was the obvious backup to Shea Patterson last year. Joe Milton only saw reps in the fourth quarter of blowout games, where Dylan actually had some meaningful time when Shea Patterson was injured. And so it was thought that it was his job 100%. And it was still a battle. I think a lot of people saw Joe Milton and saw the potential. And so he was going to get a look. But in terms of what Dylan McCaffrey brings to the table, a very Jim Harbaugh-esque quarterback, right? Not going to do anything crazy special, but will make the throws, calm, not turn the ball over, things like that, which is all the things that Harbaugh is looking for. So I don't know what the heck happened in Schembechler Hall this offseason, because for Cade, who now apparently from what we saw against Penn State, Cade at 50% is better than Joe Milton at 100%. You'd rather have him on the field because he played through most of that second half with a really badly injured right shoulder from what it looked like. And so I hate when people say this, but the QB whisperer Harbaugh, and all this stuff, it turns out he's probably not a QB whisperer. But you have to imagine he's a pretty good talent evaluator. He's had Andrew Luck, Colin Kaepernick, so many guys out there that he has really worked well with, and they've gone on to have success. How do you have three guys in that room that are all pretty talented, 4-star guys, every single one of them, and you missed on number one and number two? And then number three seems to be your guy, but you only went to him because you had to. I don't know. I think that is an indictment on the coaching staff and the talent development and how they look at recruiting and how they look at the talent.
And I know that there are guys like Brett Favre who just went out there and they were just so good and so talented, they didn't even really think about it. And I'm not going to rely on him for a quarterback evaluation, but I'm sure he could tell us who's good and who's not good. But Jim Harbaugh not only is a coach that has done what he's accomplished at various stops, but played at the highest level and took like NFL teams to playoff appearances. So he should be the guy to be able to evaluate this. And all hell will break loose on top of all this if Dylan McCaffrey transfers somewhere and plays lights out.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, I think it's very possible that that's going to happen. It's not like Dylan McCaffrey's a bad quarterback. He played well when he did get in, and he's shown that he can do it. So I imagine he's going to transfer somewhere in the Power 5, and probably be, gunning for a starting spot somewhere, probably play well. And then it's going to be all over. Wow, Jim Harbaugh, you probably should have stuck with that guy. And then maybe 2020 is completely different for Michigan. Who knows?
I'm going to throw out a ridiculous theory, but after playing the Jake Rudocks and Wilton Spates of the world, whether it got in Jim Harbaugh's head that people are expecting flash, power, cannon arm, something that's a little bit more. And if I give them another guy that's just going to run the system and run the offense, might not be good enough.
Yeah, I think that there is something to that where I don't even know if that was Jim Harbaugh's doing. Maybe Josh Gaddis is in his ear, because Josh Gaddis is different. He wants to run the spread, where Jim Harbaugh, if he had his way, he would love to just ground and pound forever and ever through the year 2050. When other teams are scoring, in 30 seconds, he wants to take the whole quarter. But I think that maybe Josh Gaddis was in his ear saying, hey, this guy is actually perfect for my system here. We can throw it deep. He can get it to the mid-level receivers, these, really fast receivers that I've got. Maybe there was something to that. I don't know. I think that Jim Harbaugh feels like he's kind of lost a little bit of his reign on that offense, after Josh Gaddis got there, and everyone was saying, Jim, you got to let the reins go. You got to, let somebody else that can come in and do it quicker, come into this century, right, with that offense. And so now he's like, hey, I let it go, and, I let the reins go, and this is what you get.